Riai.
Why didn't Kreskel have a plan beyond the initial enslavement of the humans? It's such an inconvenience to figure it out.
With the rest of the band, Riai worked to build holding pens for the captured humans from Vagori. No one knew how large to make the pens or how tall they should be. Spats broke out between members of the band, despite Gregon's best efforts to keep them all focused on one goal. Of the 500 humans, about a fifth were seedlings, a tenth were fermenting olds, and the rest were of normal human age. Gregon instructed the band to construct pens separated according to age group, with the materials they had gathered from the village. Parents fought amongst themselves for position toward the edge of the normal group to gain a better vantage of their offspring. The seedlings cried, the olds griped, and the normals either cowered or threw challenging words if they weren't too drained to stand. It was chaos. Riai had lost patience with the commotion.
Alfor, get them something to eat, will you?
Riai asked, distracted by hunger wails, while sliding large wooden staves into place around the normal pen. Alfor reclined in the sand, relishing the view of their squirming flock.
Fine.
Raka delivered another beam to Riai's pile.
Thanks, Raka.
Riai released a grateful odor. Raka was about to respond when one of the outspoken human men broke from the circle and darted into the desert sands. Raka tore after him, and in a few short bounds caught his skin with their claws. He howled and banged useless fists against armored hide. Raka substituted claws with fangs, sucking in the pooling blood from the man's shoulder. His protest weakened until he slumped in Raka's grasp. Humans and Reisiglai alike had paused to watch. Kreskel seized the opportunity. Bounding on top of scaffolding near the seedlings, Kreskel proclaimed,
"See what awaits you if you attempt to escape."
Kreskel gestured to Raka. Raka understood Kreskel's meaning. Raka twisted the man's head off. Held high in the air, the head gushed blood and stained the sand until the flow slowed to a dribble. As the body fell to the desert, a short woman screamed and tried to run to him. Others in the group held her back, and she collapsed to her knees. The gathering sympathizers surrounded the woman and forced Riai to step backward. They cooed and rubbed her back and arms.
I don't want this. This is cruel. I wanted the freedom to hunt, not the freedom to terrorize.
One of the humans from the crowd spit on Riai. Fucking monster! Riai partially scraped the projectile off with a clawed hand.
Raka's the monster, and Kreskel, not me.
After Raka finished sucking the body dry, Raka paraded the head and corpse around. The seedlings wailed. When Raka approached the woman who had cried out, Raka tossed the head to her. She caught it reflexively and looked horrified that she had. Just as quickly, she dropped it. The skull splattered blood across her beaded silk kaftan. Her eyes bugged from her head, and a vein throbbed in her face.
Tasty.
With bared teeth, the short woman tried to move toward Raka, but her fellow humans held her back again. Returning to work, Raka exuded a triumphant odor.
The woman probably can't smell it or identify it, even if she could.
Riai watched the woman after the interaction had concluded. She stooped down to dig a hole in the sand. The others joined in, and soon they buried the severed head in it.
There was still blood in there. Such a waste.
Another human female, dressed in a fitted linen wrap, pushed through to join the screaming woman. Highlight, come here. Let me hold you a moment. I can't believe he's gone. Just like that. Highlight covered her face with her forearms as she ran her hands into her thick, curly hair. The kindly female set a cautious hand on Highlight's back. He would have done the same later. At least you know his fate. He had to be the one to try to escape first. It was his last act as the chief, to try to test if it was an option. I know you're trying to help, but I need a moment alone. You can mourn later. Right now, we need someone to guide us through this, to keep everyone safe so we don't lose more. We need you to become our new chief. Highlight stared at her, horrified. I just lost my husband, and you think I'm in a sound state of mind to lead? Yes, because you have to be. Look around you. We need a semblance of organization, of normalcy. You lead then, Ageline. They'll follow you. I'm a farmer, not a chief's wife. What about Master Stratus, then? Ageline glanced to a human garbed in mage's robes, who had already turned away from the commotion. I don't know if he'd be the best choice. Highlight, if you were in the same situation back in Fagori, you wouldn't question rising to the position in your family's manner. Of course, if this were Fagori, I'd know what to do. This is all new and different and terrifying. I don't even know what we need to do here to survive. You're right, Ageline said. It is a lot of responsibility for one person. Let's do it together then. With Master Stratus too, if you insist. I do. I think it will give comfort to see faith, law, and magic leading together.
Oi, Rai, what are you standing around for? You just gave me grief for doing the same,
Alfor called. Rai had become transfixed in the human's affairs without realizing it. Reluctantly, Rai sunk their claws into another beam and built the fence another row higher.
Since you enjoyed the humans' conversation, you should get to stay on the first day watch.
Alfor volunteered Rai in front of Gregon, Kresko, and a host of other influential Raisaglai of the band. All had stayed awake for the past rotation of the suns to build the cages for the humans after their capture. The sun's rising mocked them with a reminder of their exhaustion.
I will if Gregon requests, Rai said, but I do not obey you.
Alfor released an odor indicating irritation.
Enough of that.
Gregon leaned against the center slab of stone used for planning.
Rai, if you would, I'd appreciate it immensely.
Rai touched claws to skull and dipped them ceremonially.
Thank you,
Gregon said.
Now, with the pens completed, we can concern ourselves with the next objective. Rana is still patrolling Fagori. We've collected almost all the supplies there, save for the stones lining the well and irrigation systems. We should attack Dresna next.
Kresko moved toward Gregon, as if to support the claim.
First, we need to establish a more sustainable food source for the humans. With what we've gathered, it'll feed our stock for perhaps a turn of the moons, but once we get more, we'll need more sustenance for them. We'll raid more towns and steal crops. That won't be sustainable.
Gregon tapped a claw against the stone with an even tempo.
We should have the humans cultivate their own food. They were doing it before we took them, Rai said. We have their supplies with us. What if they use their metal farming tools to fight us?
Kresko argued.
It would be worth the risk. We don't want them to starve or become dehydrated. Besides, it's easy to crush a spade between two claws. Only slight leverage is needed.
Rai would be firm on this.
Kresko had correctly guessed human military strategy for Fagori, but if the band would be farming humans, we will treat them with consideration. How do we motivate them to plow fields? What if they refuse?
Alfor asked.
We explain it's in their interest to do so. Rai, you overestimate the humans' ability to cultivate sand, Kresko said. If there's any magic between them, they can wish for the land to yield, and it will, Puya said. But also the water, Rai reminded. They cannot create blood without it, or their crops. Where among the desert sands do you suppose we'd find some?
Kresko pressed. Exasperated, Rai grasped the center planning slab.
Nowhere, which is why this was a foolish, irresponsible endeavor. We do not have the resources to cultivate a herd here. Perhaps we do not need to cultivate a herd. Perhaps we let them waste away and grab the next flock from Dresna once they expire,
Kresko said. Gregon interceded.
Kresko, as always, I value your counsel, but we should not discard human lives so quickly. The god of blood might rain terror upon us if we callously waste their gifts. We will have human and Risic enemies to navigate. We should not bring our deity's wrath upon us, too.
Pungent tang of defeat emanated from Kresko.
So what shall we do?
Puya asked. Gregon interlocked their foreclaws.
We shall present the humans with this predicament and allow them to solve it. It's doubtful they'll let their loved ones wither, especially after the demonstration today. If they cannot create food for themselves, then we will reevaluate. Now, can we discuss the next attack?
Kresko perked up again.
When we cannot manage what we have.
Rai could have uttered a curse word in anger. Kresko raised their claws unsympathetically.
Perhaps the humans will be successful in caring for themselves, and we can add to their ranks without issue. We should plan, at least to distract their forces from searching for the nest. Plan. For Dresna, when the soldiers are likely marching toward Fagori as we speak.
Riai almost couldn't explain the absurdity. We've sent for the last of Fagori's supplies intentionally. We didn't gather them over multiple turn of the moons for a reason. Marana is risking their own hide keeping guard this long, and you want to raid their nearest neighbor, thinking that they can't change the course of their direction? Do you want to fight an army?
They probably still don't know we've taken Fagori. There won't be soldiers waiting for us. We can sweep Dresna just as easily.
Kreskel set a claw on a map of Coserai's northern border to indicate Dresna's position.
It's all part of
your strategy we know you've mentioned. Alfor released a vexed scent. Kreskel didn't seem to register Alfor's sarcasm.
Right. We have a few days still.
If soldiers aren't coming as you claim, why wouldn't we go now? Alfor asked. Kreskel wavered.
Let's give some credit to Riai's concerns. Allow the humans a few days to establish themselves. Help them when we must. Then we'll go out and gather more.
Riai patrolled the shoulder-high pens with as much diligence as a sleep-deprived Raisaglai could. The seedlings still had not settled down, and as soon as one screamed themselves out, another started. The olds cooked in the sun, fanning themselves and heaving in the heat. Snippets of the normal's conversation slipped through the wooden beams of their fence, and Riai peered through a gap to watch the exchange. Highlight and Ageline had cornered the human in apricot-colored mage's robes.
It's good that the most important humans distinguish themselves with their dress. I would struggle to distinguish between them in a sea of dirty linen tunics otherwise.
Please, Master Stratus, we'll die if you don't, Ageline pleaded with upturned palms. It's better if we do, the mage grumbled, rather than suffer until our inevitable ends. Don't say that, Highlight said. King Tanzanite will save us. He'll send his soldiers, you'll see. We just have to be patient. This won't last forever. Until then, we must keep our strength and our health. What's the point? The leeches will just drain us once we're restored. The point is to survive. Ageline blocked his escape path with a hand. The point is to return home with our families. Our homes! Look around you. These boards and planks are our homes. There's no Fagori to return to. Our families? Our chief was dismantled in front of us. There's no hope left. Oh, don't get your wings twisted. You already know this to be true.
So Ageline's a spawn. That's why the others would follow her. I had thought she looked familiar. She had spoken out when Gregon and I freed Kreskel.
We do have hope. Harrow's out there somewhere. He'll find us aid. Our monarchs will save us, Ageline said. Riai realized the dark-skinned adolescent from the previous night's raid was absent. Riai searched through the swarms of bodies in the seedlings and the normal's pens, but he was indeed missing.
Had he escaped? Was he never captured? He had been drained that first night. If he did leave for Hisafe, he certainly would have died on the journey from exhaustion. I don't think we need to fret about him alerting anyone.
If we are so easily destroyed by losing our material possessions, then perhaps we deserve annihilation. Yes, we have lost my husband, but he has taught us an important lesson in this. We are stuck here until our people come for us, but so long as we are together, we can rebuild anywhere. Highlight had delivered the speech first to Stratus, and then to the rest of the clustered humans. It's not just our possessions, but our livelihoods, Stratus countered. How many farms will be destroyed because my barrier no longer protects the fields from sandstorms? So long as our spirits do not yield, we will restore what we have lost. First, we will survive, and after this is over, however long it takes, we'll return home. Cheers echoed from the pens. The normals, the olds, the seedlings. Fine, the old mage muttered. Riai decided it would be for the best to perhaps not mention the humans' latest development to Gregon upon their arousal from sleep. Unless they wanted to be responsible for Raka decapitating more humans, wasting their blood, and potentially angering their gods, it would be best for Riai to forget what they had just seen. As the band had hoped, the humans altered the conditions surrounding the nest until it became a fruitful oasis. Hyalite, Agiline, and Stratus had gotten the other humans in line and made decisions according to a popular vote between the three of them. By unanimous decision, once the ground was ready, everyone would farm it, regardless of their prior profession. Stratus brought storm clouds and practiced changing the sand to dirt with marginal success at first, but later, with the addition of human corpses to transmute, he succeeded. Since the first death, 3 more had attempted escaping, 1 old and 2 seedlings. All had occurred during night shifts when Riai hadn't been on guard. None had survived. Their blood was drained, their meat fed to other humans, and their bones became soil. If it weren't for the constant sobbing, Riai would have thought the recycling had been a favorable outcome. Because the humans had become self-sufficient, Kresko had convinced Gragon to conduct the raid on Dresna. The night of the raid, Riai had scouted human sentinels along the perimeter of the village. They were armed and perched upon bumpy, shelled rooftops.
It'll be harder to sneak up on them this time. I bet Kresko was wrong. They were probably warned of our prior attack. They wouldn't have so many defensive measures in place otherwise.
Puya joined Riai in the tall grasses.
There are more of the human carrying containers. See over there.
Puya raised a claw toward the center of the village, where a couple of oxen cart holding containers rested unused. With the setting of the second sun, the sentinels lit dozens of lanterns. The village was aglow, with few shadows left to hide.
We'll have to be careful not to set the wooden buildings ablaze.
Riai released a cautionary scent without an edge of fear to it. Gragon responded from a distance with a scent. It signaled to halt. The rising moon traded places with the setting sun. The resulting solar eclipse onset darkness earlier than anticipated. Riai assumed the others had surrounded the village, but had no olfactory confirmation. Puya nudged Riai.
Look.
Riai shuffled closer, for a better vantage view, careful not to rustle the grasses too much. A shadow fluttered toward the edge of the village light. One by one, the lanterns extinguished. A sentinel noticed and approached to relight one of them. Without a sound, the man disappeared into the darkness. The next sentinels vanished similarly. More of the lights dissolved.
Gragon could be the god of the hunt incarnate. Even while carrying a clutch, their stealth is unparalleled.
Once the final lookout vanished, Gragon released another command. Hunt. Puya pulled ahead, and Riai followed. At the first house, Gragon stuffed the sentinels' unconscious bodies into the prison cages. Few humans ventured outside after, but when they did, other Rhysicli waited to sweep them away. One such human made the mistake of crossing paths with Riai. Riai seized the human by the throat, squeezing its windpipe to block a scream from escaping. Ravenous with hunger, Riai sunk their teeth into the man's bicep. Puya opened wounds to drain the man, but did not partake in the blood. Rather, Puya jumped another human and crushed them with their weight. After Riai's man passed out from blood loss, Riai tossed him in the cart. The scent of the man in Riai's teeth blocked scent signals until Riai licked the hollow bones clean. Others had invaded houses and brought out groggy seedlings, along with more olds and normals.
Why haven't soldiers attacked us yet? Can we really steal all these people without repercussions? By the gods, are we actually doing this?
Riai whispered to themselves. From behind Riai, Gragon's voice startled them.
We are.